Hey, what's going on? And welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host, Thomas Keenan, coming at you here today. I've got an awesome guest, Mr. Chad Price. And Chad and I were just chatting here before we hit the record button. And he's an accomplished dude. And we spoke briefly. And the guy's got some cool things going on. We have some similarities. We're both published authors, which is pretty cool. I think you're the third or fourth guest that I've had on in succession who's been a published author. And if you go and actually check out the stats on how many people in the country or in the world are actually published authors, last time I Googled it was a couple of years ago, but it was less than 0.001% of the world's population is a published author. So it's a pretty cool exclusive little tribe or fraternity that we're both members of. And I just want to take my hat off to you and say congratulations, because it's not as easy as some people say it is. And it's a project, it's work, and you got to put a lot of time and dedication into it. So congratulations to you for adding that title to your resume, sir. And welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for all the great compliments. Yeah, I mean, I like the way you put it. It is a challenge and a journey. So, I think when you have the chance to kind of write down these things and publish it, it's kind of set in history. So, I'm excited to see how it does. And, I look at this as kind of one of many. So hopefully this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. Matter of fact, I started writing the second one about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And right as I was getting ready to put the final editing touches on that version of the book, I had some major life-altering events. And I said, hold on a second. I'm still writing the story. I got to take a break.
Yeah.
So I pulled the plug, hit the pause button on it. And now over the last 12 to 18 months, so much more of the story has changed. So much more of life has been lived out by me. So many more experiences have come into my world that I wouldn't have had if I had launched that book when I thought it was the right time. So now I've got to go back in and redo and revamp and organize things again. But I think it's really going to allow this to just be the next version of me, the next iteration, right? So my first book, I got a copy of it here, Unfuck Your Business. This came out in June of 2019, did well with it, and got really great feedback from the people who purchased the book and read it and whatnot. And I've been asked by countless people since then, like, when's the next one coming? And I bet the same thing's going to happen to you. So keep living your life, keep having the good experiences, keep growing the businesses and influencing, impacting people, and keep building the story for the next version. Because like you said, I just like, we're very similar in that aspect. I don't have just one in me. I've got several, and we're just getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I probably wanted to write this book about, I kind of culminated the 10-year journey of me growing Kettlebell Kings and then selling that company in the book. And I probably wanted to write the book like 5 years in, because I knew we had something, but it really wasn't at a point where it was after, a 10-year period in the acquisition and things like that. Yeah. So waiting that 10-year journey and writing it, I really like the way that kind of worked for me. And I think I'm just going to kind of implement that into my project. So if I do something big and successful, I'm sure I'll try to culminate it into some type of published work.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, I got to be that guy right now. So you're a former athlete. You probably still take great care of yourself. From what I can see, looking at you now, you look like you're in great shape. I went off the rails for a number of years and didn't take care of myself. And then when I guess it was around 2018 or so, I decided, all right, enough of the BS. I got to go take care of me. So went back to work heavily on me and did well with it. And I'm very active now. I'd say anywhere from 4 to 6 days a week on average. Like I'm in the gym in the morning, moving my body. And one thing that I absolutely despise is when my trainer says, go grab a kettlebell. Like, I understand that it is a fantastic tool in the gym environment. I understand that it is, it's a well-respected tool. But man, like every time that I get assigned a workout with a kettlebell, like something inside of me just goes, no, not today, man. Like I'd rather just go into the squat bar. But what was the push for you to get involved with Kettlebell Kings and grow the company and take it to where it went? And was it something where you got into because of your athletics and the time spent at Rice University and playing football and whatnot? Was it something where you were working with kettlebells and you fell in love with it and said, oh, cool, this is a passion, let's turn it into a business? Or was it more of, hey, this is an opportunity and I could see that we can grow this, let's go make something happen?
It was a combination of both. So, after I graduated from Rice, like everyone, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I knew at some point I wanted to potentially start my own business. I talked to people in college, my network of friends and connections in college about potentially starting a business, but no one really kind of moved on the idea. And we all went our separate ways and tried to get corporate jobs. I'd worked my way into a pretty good corporate job, working in oil and gas. And at that time, I really kind of realized, like, if I want to start my own business, I have to do it now or never. I can always kind of come back to corporate America. And if that's what I want to do long term, I had enough experience to know what that would look like. But I kind of just got two of my buddies and, we decided that we were going to start our own business. I wanted to have like a council of decision making and really try to create like a venture that would go forth and try to make like the best decisions for whatever business we started. And so we started with that idea, then built a list of ideas of types of businesses we wanted to start. And it really settled in e-commerce. And at the time, kettlebells was just growing in popularity, and there was really no cool street brand associated with it at all. So we were like, okay, this is kind of coming together. And we had athletic backgrounds. My other business partner went to Rice with me and played football there as well with me. And then one of them was a friend of one of my teammates who also went to Rice with me. So it was a very close network of people who had familiarity with lifting and, let's say, training to play competitively, but we never really worked with kettlebells. And we were all in that part of our lives where we were trying to figure out, okay, what does working out look like for us after college? We're not maxing out on squats and bench press every single day and cleaning all heavy like we would playing sports. And so through that journey, kettlebells just kind of fell in perfect. And we created a community around it to try to bring everybody together around just using this tool as a piece of your health and wellness.
Yeah, for sure. So I went and did a little social recon, on the Kettlebell Kings, because I saw, for those people who are listening, the way the podcast booking space works is like your team sent over a package, a bunch of stuff with you, and then my team looks at it and says, "Hey, is this person worth having on as a guest? Yes or no?" kind of deal. Obviously, we said yes because you're here. And with that, you give away like this press kit, which is like, hey, here's some information about the potential guest so we can go do our social recon. So anyway, for those little education there, I go in, start looking over all your stuff. And I'm like, Kettlebell Kings, like, I don't know that name, but I sure as shit know the logo that's on them kettlebells.
Yeah.
It's the logo of pain, sir. So, going over here to Instagram and like, you guys built a massive following. You have 409,000 followers currently on Instagram and on that company and the brand. Like that's nothing to shake a stick at. Like, that is some work right there to build that kind of community that comes and supports and wants to know about this small little, not always small, but this small little, tiny little snippet of a piece of the fitness industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, from the beginning, we knew we wanted to create something like that. So like creating basically a digital community was kind of part of our original idea as a company. So, whatever we were going to get into, we were going to try to brand it and create an online community. We knew we never really wanted to have like a physical retail location. We wanted to be like a virtual entity that could go anywhere in the world and provide all the ultimate information and tools necessary to compete or train with kettlebells. And one of our mottos was, we want to be like the ESPN of the kettlebell world as well. So we're aggregating all of the content globally and putting that content together so that if you're a viewer of kettlebell content, this is the best place to see it. This is where you're going to find the highlight reels, the most education, anything that you can need in that regard.
Yeah, that's wild. So let me go back into the planning phase of this company here, because you guys obviously did well, but successful. But what did that look like from the get-go? You've got two business partners. Now, I've had companies myself where I've had business partners and I've walked out saying, "Oh my God, I don't know how I ever did that." What was the startup phase of this looking like? What is the planning? What is like, hey, did you guys have any idea of what this thing would potentially turn into with the upfront work that you were doing? Or was it like, hey, let's just kind of roll the dice and see where it goes?
It was definitely roll the dice and see where it goes. That's not always the recommended path I'd recommend for people. But for me at the time, that's what we could, it was about getting the ball to the next stop, getting my business partners on the same page, making one decision after another, trying to make consecutive decisions that led to, the success of the company. And because we didn't know what we were doing, it was a search finding mission the entire time. I was not a kettlebell expert by any means. And so I had to literally go out and research and connect and network and support. We donated more kettlebells to the kettlebell community than had ever been donated probably in the last 10, 15 years, just to try to earn the respect and the credibility of the brand. We wanted people to give us feedback so we can go actually improve and actually become experts in it.
Yeah.
So I think that part of it actually ended up helping us quite a bit because there was no real ego involved. It was, how do we find the biggest community of kettlebell enthusiasts and serve those people with the products and the kind of the content that they want.
Yeah, that's awesome. At what point did you guys come in and start actually bringing on team members and hiring people inside that company?
I want to say we were probably 3 years in when we first hired our first employee.
Hold on. Lesson learned right there.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. So 3 years in, you're one of 3 business partners and you didn't hire someone for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
I think that's it's very valid. I think it's very real. Obviously you did it. But I see so many people who want to go start a business and they don't have the capital in place and they want to go and hire and delegate everything at first. It's like, hey, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to have to go in there and do a lot of that legwork yourself in the beginning. Otherwise, this is just not going to work at all.
Yeah, I mean, every single, I've sent out thousands of packages. I've taped up thousands of kettlebells, maybe probably tens of thousands of kettlebells at this point. Millions of pounds have been moved by my arms alone. But yeah, I think that's just how it started. We started in a 10 by 10 storage. So, I would drive over to the storage every day and drag everything out of there, sort through it, and then push it all back in every single day to send out orders. And we did that for the first 2 years. I was fortunate enough at the time to I started a nail salon at the exact same time we started Kettlebell Kings, because I had done my research and I was moving to Austin. So that was an area in which I thought I could kind of make immediate cash flow. And so my girlfriend was working at the salon, kind of doing the operations, the day-to-day operations. And I did all the business management, all of the back end, the office administrative type of operations for that. So I drive from the nail salon to go send out kettlebell orders. And I did that for 2 years until we got our first warehouse. And that was kind of the turning point, if you will, because now we had a physical location where we were storing more and more goods, and we kind of could expand our overall revenue.
Yeah, love it. I love it. So you got another company right now as well, right? That's Life Grows Green. Tell me a little bit about that. I know it's a hemp-based product line that you've got, and what is it? Who's it for? Where do we find it? That kind of stuff.
Sure. So, I started this company throughout the kettlebell journey and really the entire journey of that 10-year process. We started another company during that time period called Living.Fit that I sold my shares in as well at the time when I sold Kettlebell Kings. But that's another company of mine that basically we created to try to encompass other things in the fitness space. So other pieces of equipment, other types of certifications and digital offerings, things like that. Well, one of the areas that I also have personal interest in, and that's where I could kind of bring Life Grows Green into this, is just really creating natural lifestyle products. So, when you think about all the products that you just use in nature, or that you use in your lifestyle, that could be replaced by something in nature. So it could be anything from your supplements, hemp-based product and CBD products, things like that. But it could also be, glassware, sheets and beddings and pillows, and really any type of product that a community that wants to differentiate themselves or really kind of go back to nature with some of the products that you use in a day-to-day life. Yeah,
that's awesome. So how long has that company been in place now?
I founded that company in 2019, and like I say, we were acquired with Kettlebell Kings in a 3-year acquisition starting at the beginning of 2022.
Yeah.
And so I'm really kind of focusing my time a lot more on that company now. The product lineup that we have right now is just the beginning. We have a huge new product development department right now that's coming out with new products. We'll have an Amazon store up. So this is kind of just the beginning for that project for me.
That's awesome, and it's exciting. And I'm sure like this is how it's always been for me too. I've had a couple of companies in my day as well. And it's like, hey, the first 1 or 2 were the real struggle. Yeah. And now, all right, cool. I learned a lot of lessons there, learned a lot about people, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about just business overall. Now, when it comes time to open the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth one, it's almost like, hey, I know what systems are going to work already, regardless of what the business does. I know these are 5 or 10 or 15 things that must go in place and be functional before we service the first customer. Right. So I'm sure at this point in your career, you have that checklist of information and it's like, oh, new company, cool. This is what we need to do to get going with it. So, whenever I work with clients on this, in the coaching or consulting space, it's like, okay, like you've done this already. Now, if you're going to do it again, or if let's say, even if company one didn't work out and you're going in for a second shot, I guarantee you. So let's say it took you five years to get to $1 million in sales. This second version of that company, you're going to do it in one.
Yeah.
It's because you know so much more at that point in your life.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, it's so many of those trial and error situations that I've been through that have kind of taught me that I don't even realize. And I think the book was a good time for me to self-reflect on that journey, because I did not realize kind of all of the things that were in my head in regards to, like you say, just the general infrastructure required to run a modern business. Yeah. And I think it's ever changing, right? I think, there's continuous additions that you need to add to that kind of infrastructure on a regular basis, especially with things like AI and the different tools that are coming out now. You're talking about kind of an entirely different playing field. Yeah. I compare AI, for example. I remember when Facebook first came out, I was in college and I got the first Facebook page and I was like, man, I cannot wait to start a business using this. Like that was, I was there for that. And I feel like AI is kind of one of those things right now. So I kind of preach to people now, like, hey, we're on the precipice of something that, you can take advantage of whatever good idea you have if you put the right business infrastructure in place.
Yeah. Are you guys currently using any AI in the company now?
I use AI in every company I have, in my meetings, and if I can find a way to use AI and have AI evaluate it, yep, I will have AI evaluate it. I think we're headed to a world in which our entire reality will be evaluated by AI continuously. So every phone call, every text message, every key punch that you put into a computer, everything will be AI interpreted.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Fireflies is my meeting note taker that I use, and there's a couple different versions of it out there. Yeah. That's been super helpful. But just the simple fact that a tool like Fireflies AI has a transcription service built into it.
Yeah,
right. It's like it's a no-brainer. So go back to books for a second, right? When I wrote the first book, the book process was cool. I had an idea, hired an editor. Basically had a conversation with the editor for $2,000 to make sure that my idea wasn't crazy and was a valid idea. She goes, yeah, sure it is. Cool. So we put the contract together, start working together. And the next step was, over several phone calls, was creating the outline of the book. Mm-hmm. Here's the outline. Now you've got to go create the content for each of the bullet points in, chapters 1 through 12 or 15, whatever it was. Yeah. Back in the day, this is 2018. I was doing the work of actually, putting the book together. I use a service called rev.com, and it allowed me to just speak into my phone and transcribe my own voice into a Word document. That Word document then became what was edited for the book. And it was like $1 a minute per word. Yeah. So you got, by the time I was done with the book, it was probably close to $1,000 in transcription fees. And this is back before they had the automated versions of it. This is a real person who's listening to your voice and transcribing it. But now with something like Fireflies, I'll give you, for instance, one of the ways that I'm using AI. I had a woman who lives here in the Dallas area. She recently, very young age, passed away. Had her on my podcast a year ago, and I hear that, she passes and whatnot. And I didn't have to, but I felt like a need to go and republish the podcast episode because it was a killer episode. She's just a great human being and has done a lot of really good things for other people. And I go and I republished the episode, but I wanted to record a new intro to the podcast, right? Like, hey, you may have heard this episode before, but I'm giving it back out to the public, and here's why. So I pop open StreamYard, which is what we're using here today. I record this new intro video. It's about 5 minutes or so long. Podcast team takes it. They re-edit and put the new intro in. Episode releases. So now it comes time where I want to send an email out to my list and say, hey, this is a special episode coming out. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more context in this email, not just, hey, by the way, a new episode came out. Click the link and view. And I didn't know what to say. Like I came to a blank, which, people think like, oh, you're a writer. You must have all these words all the time. Like, no, I hate to break it to you. I don't always have all the words. So I said, all right, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use AI. So I took the video, the MP4, I uploaded it to Fireflies. It transcribes the words from the video itself. I then took those words, I dropped them into ChatGPT, and I said, please create an email that will be sent out to my list of podcast subscribers for blah, 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 blah. Keep the sentiment and the tone of my voice exactly how you find it, because I don't want you changing this into the AI bot version of me, right?
Yep.
And it kicked out a beautiful email, and it took a small amount of editing. I had to edit about 3 sentences. There was a couple of words in there that I just wouldn't use, so I wiped them out.
Yep.
But by leveraging this tool, so it was me, it's my words. I let the computer come in, the AI system come in and help enhance, fix, clean up, punctuation and whatnot. And boom, now I've got an email out to my list. So instead of me sitting there in front of the computer with a blank stare of like, oh my God, I got 30 minutes to do this, and 29 minutes and 15 seconds into it, you're like, put the computer to work, put the AI to work, right? And allow it to help you. And I think that's the important lesson there is, a lot of people want to leverage the AI to do all of the work for them. And in my opinion, it's like, hey, why don't you come up with a little bit more of a hybrid method? Because I don't think we're there yet to let AI do everything at this point. So let's give it a little bit of input from the human, me, and now take what I've given you and make it better.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I mean, I think that's the best way to do it is you try to capture something that's really valuable content, and then you just use the AI to help you serve that to the population. It's in a more streamlined process. So, like you're saying, you can put relevant emails together almost immediately that would be equal to or greater than what you'd spend, a couple of hours trying to make sure everything was in the perfect place that you wanted. So I use that kind of stuff all the time. It's I tell everybody around me to use it, and it's even funny because my girlfriend uses it, and she started even using it in her text messages, and I'm like, hey, don't send me any AI text messages. Like, do not, like, that's too far. I do not want to talk. But if she has to do like business through a text message and it's a complicated thing, she'll say everything she needs to say into the AI. Please make this formal and, say this in a way that's business professional, whatever she says to prompt it. And then, that helps her do it. And I think that using tools like that to just complement your natural skill set is going to be how you get ahead in the future. Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about e-commerce for a bit, right? Because you got an e-commerce background, the Kettlebell company. We've got Life Grows Greens as well. It's e-com. And I'm not an e-com guy, full transparency. Okay. My experience, or from my perspective, looking in on e-com businesses, is e-com businesses are, and let me back up here a second. All businesses are reliant upon marketing. Without marketing, there is no sales. That's my theory on it. Okay. However, with an e-com business, from the outside looking in, my perspective says that marketing is probably 10x more important than any other business. Because without it, I mean, how do people know? How do people find you? How do people purchase anything from you? What's your theory on that? And what does a good marketing platform or system look like for you in the e-com world? I mean, I really think it depends, right? Like if you have a brand and you have a community, marketing becomes a lot less important. So for Kettlebell Kings, for example, marketing, every single time someone would look at our books, they would be like, how are you guys not spending anything on marketing? And it will be because we have created a system of kind of a self-propelling engine, if you will, because people want to be more a part of that community, and they're going to continue to share and generate more content. We're going to work as we would almost consider a huge part of our employees as part of a marketing team because they're servicing the content generation portion of the business itself. So, it is technically still marketing, but the way we're marketing is by continuing to grow the community and then serving that community. And that's usually through emails and through the private groups that we've created versus us, making a Facebook ad that we think is going to actually get someone to purchase an actual kettlebell. It's usually come join the community, stay there for 3 to 6 months, and we will get you along the way. We'll get you purchasing kettlebells. I like that. And I think it's very valid. I worked for a company when I first moved to Dallas a couple of years ago. I worked there for 2 years. I spent time as their COO. And prior to that, I was a client of the organization. That was their key to success. So it was a coaching mastermind program. One of the things that we did was we taught our clients
how to market themselves, how to establish themselves as the authority by leveraging social media. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to go market yourself on social media. If you can market yourself, you can market your business, right? With that being said, we would also say and prompt the clients, hey, when you go out there and you start talking about this, when you do have those wins and those successful moments, don't forget to mention us. And now all of a sudden you've got 3,000 talking heads in a good sense who are out there marketing for you. And same deal. We didn't have to go and run the paid Facebook traffic, the paid ads. We didn't have to go, Google My Business. Well, Google My Business was there, but I'm talking pay-per-click. We didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff because we had so much. I almost hesitate to use the word organic because you have an army of people out there doing it for you, but it's still, in a sense, it's still organic traffic. You combine that with the content machine that we had internally as well. So not only do we have all the clients out there, but when you became a team member, you were expected to have a posting schedule. You were expected to put out XYZ amount of content per week. Yeah. And when you have a team of 25, 30 people doing that, plus your army of paying clients who are raving fans, all doing that at the same time, like there's your marketing machine.
Yeah. And I mean, we realized pretty quick, especially because we were getting so much traffic and people were really interested in the content that we generated, that we really, we were like a production company. We are producing content 24 hours a day, trying to fill gaps and trying to, Facebook needs these pieces, Instagram needs these pieces, YouTube needs these types of pieces. Like it's literally just breaking up the content and serving it to the community. And then the advertising is join the community. That's literally becomes most of the advertising. So you're talking about lead generation being the most, kind of the highest form of, let's say, paid advertising that we do. It's very little direct sales.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So you're getting paid to lead generate, which usually it's the other way around in most industries where they have to pay to generate the leads.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I love it. So tell me what was the whole purpose of you wanting to write the book, and what was your intention with writing the book of, who it's going to impact and what are you trying to do for people with it?
Well, I mean, I think I want to culminate my journey somewhat. I think selling a company that you started with your friends from college is, a good kind of stopping point or a good, story to tell. And then I think there was a lot of experiences that, looking back on it, I had throughout sports and throughout college and even post college that I can kind of use as lessons and examples of, types of situations that made it difficult for me, things I took advantage of, like I talk about the taking advantage of social media and things like that. Yeah. So it's really for someone who is thinking about starting that journey. And, I named it Preparing for Battle. Because I want you to be in that mindset when you think about going to do something difficult. I don't think that starting a multi-million-dollar entity should be easy, nor is it easy. And if you're going to do that and you're not currently doing it, I think you have to adjust your mindset for that. And that's where I really put the book in. It's not, this book is not going to give you the blueprint to start any business in the world. It'll help you pull the structure together and mentally lay out kind of what is necessary in your life to be successful.
I love it. Let's switch gears here a second. Let's talk about exiting a company, right? Something you've done at this point, obviously. We just talked about it. But what was that process look like? Because this is something I get a lot of people who come up to me like, I want to sell my business. I'm like, well, first off, you need to have a business. And the harsh reality is that most small business owners aren't business owners. They own a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? It's just a harsh reality. And, in my position, I'm asked to be very brutally honest with people who pay me a lot of money to work with them. And oftentimes I have to have those tough conversations with them. And hey, I'm not trying to be an ass here, but I've got to give you the perspective from the outside world. So, you don't get hit, but you don't get blindsided out of left field with some information. So tell me some information from your perspective, since you've gone through this process already successfully. What does it take and I know this could be a topic that we can talk 6 hours on, but the 30,000 foot high level view, what does it take to successfully exit a company?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on your experience level and the network that you have around you. So I'm big on mentors and people who've already been through the experiences
Mhm.
that you've gone through. But then, at the same time, I know it's hard to trust people who you've never worked with, and it's hard to, find people when you don't have a real, let's say, point of reference or a point of commonality to begin a trust, especially for something so big like selling your company.
Mhm.
But with that being said, for us, we're so used to not being experts at anything and just going for it. So like that's just how we would go about things. If something needs to be done, then that's what we're going to do. And we would have processes in place in which we try to become experts. So that's going to be interviewing pretty much every single company in that space. We're going to try to form some type of system and have internal meetings and conversations about what do we think this market is. Like, we literally try to look at it as, if we were going to start a company like them,
Mhm.
which one of these companies would we want to be associated with? And we try to study the market so we have at least an internal consensus of what we're actually getting ourselves involved in.
Mhm.
And then from that point, it becomes a little bit easier. But because technology and things are moving so fast, like for us, for example, e-commerce aggregators didn't exist 20 years ago. So there's not a lot of data there you can really point to about which aggregator you should go to and who's going to actually do what's best for your company.
Right.
So it is to me, it's always going to be a process that you have to put in place that you feel comfortable standing behind. And I think that's just internally how we operated anyway, choosing any vendor or any kind of major business decision.
Sure. Tell me a little bit more about the aggregator. What's their role? Is this someone who's coming in studying data from the ecom platform and saying, "Hey, this is what the company's worth," some as a valuation?
So you have basically these big aggregators that are out there
Mhm.
that buy e-commerce portfolios. When COVID happened, every single major hedge fund, every single company that didn't bet on e-commerce really lost out and really found out the severity and the direction that not having that as part of your portfolio, the detriment to the portfolio, basically.
Sure.
And so there were a ton of companies that formed that their goal was to kind of buy up this online real estate, so that should that happen again, quarantine happen again, they are diversified and they have some lines of revenue through that.
Mhm.
So you have companies out there that are literally buying e-commerce companies, buying Amazon companies or Amazon stores, and then building a portfolio of brands that hopefully can complement one another and, so let's say increase everyone's overall profitability by combining all of the resources and savings that you can through all the companies.
Makes sense. I got a question here. You mentioned COVID. Um, I know that a lot of fitness equipment was very hard to find when basically COVID came in and shut the world down, especially here in the U.S. I remember seeing some just staggering prices of what people were getting for, just dumbbells. Um, what was it like in the kettlebell company during that period? Did you guys see sales spike through the roof where you couldn't keep any inventory in? Like, what did it look like?
Well, fortunately for us, we always had the problem of not being able to keep inventory in. So, when you're a very popular brand, we would sell out of inventory on a regular basis. We would get as much as possible, sell out of it. But COVID took it to the another extreme. So
Mhm.
COVID sold out of it, in one day, sometimes in hours.
Yeah.
So, when they announced COVID, they announced the quarantine, everything in the store was gone in 20 minutes.
Wow.
It was one of the craziest spikes in sales that we've ever seen. But that was normal for us. It was just like, okay, well, we expected to have that for the next 2 months, and now we don't have anything.
Right.
But it was kind of we were already in a situation in which being behind on inventory, trying to keep up with the demand was a big part of the issue
Mhm.
for the company in general.
Yeah.
So we really started focusing on the digital aspect of the company and the content generation and
Mhm.
home fitness kind of being a part of the brand itself, and you using Kettlebell Kings as infrastructure to kind of form your own, let's say, health and wellness home fitness routine. So you didn't
Yeah.
have to have a 24-hour fitness or
Mhm.
a gym chain leading that charge for you. A brand like Kettlebell King could do it for you.
Yeah.
And that was very successful for us also, and it complemented our lead generation and content
Yeah.
generation strategy. So
Yeah.
for us, COVID was just a bonus. It was just kind of cementing us as a fitness brand, and especially as a home fitness brand that you would use to do your personal journey at home.
Yeah. So the lesson I got here that I want the listeners to really pay attention to is content, right? Like because you had this opportunity, because that's what COVID was an opportunity, right?
Sure.
You sell out of your inventory. Great. All right. Well, we don't have anything. We're having supply issues. Possibly we can't get stuff in here for a while. And that was an issue prior to COVID. Now it's exponential.
Yeah.
But what can we do to provide value to our community? Oh, well, we create content already. Okay, well, let's go double down on content and provide more value to these people. Oh, you know what? With our product, here's a whole workout plan for the week, the month, whatever, the quarter, right? These are different things you can do with kettlebells that are outside or, out of the box thinking, non-traditional thinking for workouts. But my point here is I want the listeners to say, okay, well, with content, what other value can I provide to my community of people? And if you're a business owner and you think you don't have a community of people who follows you, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
You do. Trust me, you do. And even if it's a small following, get content out there. And like you said, not only are you providing value to your community, but you're also continuously marketing to them.
Yeah. And I mean, even if, you are, and that's one of the things I think we did a great job of, is there are so many people that want to create content. And I think it's just a matter of figuring out who you work with best. So, we kind of looked at it like forming an alliance of people who really wanted to create good kettlebell content. And we want to support that. So, ours, like you said earlier, like I hate to call it organic because so much work is put into it, but it becomes organic because it's like a cross promotional exercise and you're genuinely trying to do what benefits both parties. So you have trainers, you have people who, are kettlebell sport lifters, you have people who are doing coaching. You're putting all of that together and you're driving more eyeballs to it basically for everybody, and kind of leading that charge and always being the person that does what you say you're going to do and produces the content and does more for people than they do for you type of deal. You build a reputation in that space for being that kind of central location to really get your content out there. And that's what we became in the kettlebell space, where if you want to be known in the kettlebell community, even if you're another brand, you're hashtagging Kettlebell Kings because that's where things are going to get seen at.
Yeah, I like that. Here's a question for you. I'll wrap up here in a minute. If you had to go back to day one of you and your co-founders, kicking up Kettlebell Kings, if you were able to sit down across the table from that version of you, what lessons or what warnings would you give that version of you?
Day one, it'd be hard to give me warnings that I think, I hadn't learned the lesson the hard way yet. So, I think some of those lessons you just have to learn the hard way. I couldn't take back like the public storage days or anything like that because, I needed to see those basics and I needed to basically prepare myself for kind of what was the next step. And, I even talk about that in the book, is all of that was hard, but maybe that is exactly what I needed to put myself in a position to be able to handle what was the next step. But I do think when I reflect on it, like things like fundraising, for example, if you're not a good fundraiser, if you're not able to see business opportunities for as clear as they can be, sometimes you can possibly do things faster if you have the right network and the right funds in place. So like 3 years in with Kettlebell Kings, 4 or 5 years in, especially, I think we should have probably done some fundraising and really kind of put a lot of fuel on the fire when we had the brand where we knew it was something successful. But at that time, you're in the fight. You don't really, you don't see the forest for the trees, and you're just kind of, the line's going up, but it could be going up faster. And having more experience now, I know that. Yeah. But it's one of those things where would I have known that if I didn't go through it, or would I still be making those mistakes today? I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, like we talked about earlier, though, this is where you can now apply those lessons to the new company and the one you're going to build after that too.
Exactly. And all I try to do is try to culminate these types of concepts and ideas, just like the one you're saying in my book, and try to have people at least think about these types of things while you're going through it, so you can be as prepared for whatever you may have. We didn't pay ourselves, for example, for the first 5 years of Kettlebell Kings. And, I don't think that most people can afford to do that. I was able to do that because I had other companies and other plans, and so were my business partners. But, I think it's all part of that overall strategy and the the mental weight of dealing with kind of having a new child, having a new responsibility that you're not going to be able to get away from. That's usually going to be more than your current weight load that you're carrying if you're not an employee. I mean, if you're currently an employee right now.
Sure. Yeah, that's another valid lesson right there is, sometimes you can't take that pay, the timing, it's just not there. And you have to keep reinvesting in the company. I see a lot, and I've fallen into this trap myself too. So don't think I don't feel for people when they get in here, but oftentimes we build this company that produces, and all of a sudden our lifestyle increases because of it, because it's there. Yeah. All right, cool. I get it. You want the nice things. You want the nice car. You want the nice house. But at some point in time, you have to sit back and say, hey, is this really going to get me to where I want to go? And is this a diversion? Is this something that's going to slow me down from attaining that goal? Or if I can push this aside with a little bit of discipline for the next 3, 4, 5 years, will I get there and never have to worry ever again in my life?
Exactly. And I mean, even the never have to worry or whatever that milestone is, I think you have to think about it and really plan for it. And that's what will continue to make you a better business person and, business professional, make better business decisions in general, is kind of having that foresight to put those milestones in place and be realistic. I mean, I remember having the conversation with my partners like, hey, $1 million is nothing, guys. Like, we made $1 million, but that's not going to change anyone's life here. We need to make $5 million, $10 million. That's where we need to go. And I think someone has to have that foresight and set the bar for the company to have realistic kind of life-changing success if you want.
Yeah, man. I love it. I appreciate you coming in here today, dropping a lot of information and knowledge. You're truly an experienced guy who's done some cool things in life. And with that being said, like where's the best place people can connect with you, possibly get the book?
Sure. You can get the book on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. You can type in Chad Price or Preparing for Battle Chad Price. But then you can also find it on my social media as Real Chad Price and my website, chadprice.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you name it.
Cool. Yeah, we're going to have all that stuff drop into the show notes as well. So if you're listening to this, go check them out. And if not, if you're going to watch this on YouTube, we'll have them dropped in there as well. Chad, it's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate you coming in here today and sharing your insight and value. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Thank you for having me. It was nice meeting.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.